Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Ignite 2020. This is our career exploration series, and this session will specifically explore careers focused on plants and environment food. So my name is Katie Mortucci. I work in career services at Del Val as our employee relations advisor. And I just want to start by thanking our event sponsors, so Growmark FS and Delaware Valley University Alumni Council. All of our panelists are also willing to connect with you. So if you'd like to individually reach out to one of these panelists, please do. Please stick around for the roundtables to connect with them directly, but cspd@delval.edu is also a resource, so just send us over an email and we'll get you in touch. So welcome, everybody. I'm gonna encourage us, if we aren't talking, to keep our mics on mute, and we'll just go around probably in the same order for each question, just for the sake of staying organized. So Kathryn, you're the first on my screen. Would you introduce your name, your title, where you work? And then this first question, you can just dive right in. How has your first job impacted your career and where you are today?
Okay, my name's Kathryn Homa. I am a pathology lead biologist at IR4 headquarters, which is currently located at Rutgers University and moving to NC State University soon. I graduated in 2007 with a degree in ornamental horticulture. And currently I'm also trying to pursue my PhD. So my first job, I actually started working for Rutgers University as part of an internship with Delaware Valley University. And it was actually with greenhouse crops with hydroponics. So I got really interested in greenhouse work. And it kind of opened up the doors to say, well, agriculture is not just farming. It's also can go beyond that to engineering and also to regulatory science, which I'm currently doing good laboratory practice studies with that, and also efficacy work. So although it's your first job, it could be very important too, because it kind of introduces you into a bigger world that you didn't really know was out there. And that eventually led to the Rutgers University position with doing regulatory studies, which was a whole side that I've never seen before because I came from a farming family and I didn't really see that side of it. So that was really exciting to me.
Thanks so much. Paula.
Hi, everyone. It's so great to be here. I'm Paula Reichel, and I am the Senior Vice President of Strategic Initiatives at Partnership for a Healthier America. We're a nationwide nonprofit founded in 2010 alongside former First Ladies Michelle Obama's Let's Move initiative. And our mission is to transform food landscapes in pursuit of health equity. So when you say first job, it's interesting because it's like, well, which first job? My first job on the books was waitressing, and I think that taught me some humility, right? So everyone, I know folks nowadays aren't having sort of real first jobs, but that one was very interesting. But then my first professional job, my background is actually on K-12 reform. So I'll get into how I fell into food later, but I worked for DC Public Schools under then Chancellor Michelle Rhee in the operations department. So I was really basically helping over 150 schools make sure they had the materials and the supplies they need to really be successful. And again, it taught me a lot about the power of listening, I think is really important. The power of different people and of collaboration. And I think about, creating connections wherever you are, both within your organization and outside of it.
Thank you. Go ahead, Kurt.
Hi, my name is Kurt Yasenchak, and I currently am a regulatory scientist for Campbell Soup Company. I'm sorry if you don't know who Campbell's is, the red and white can. But I had sort of the similar idea as Paula. I was like, well, which first job is the first job, right? So my first job was actually working at a shooting range. I was in a box in the ground and I loaded clay targets onto a machine that shot them out, and it was incredibly hot and I got incredibly dirty. And the one thing it absolutely taught me was that hard work can get you really far, and it can really carry you, but you have to be smart about it and how you execute your hard work. And then post college, my first job would have been a food service director at Fenway Park with Aramark. So if you don't know where Fenway Park is, it's up in Boston. So I moved from Doylestown to Boston to value my own time, be flexible and be ready to be flexible. Change is totally unavoidable and you'll never really get away from it. So the more prepared you are to change, the better you come out at the end. So I wasn't ready to move to Boston. I did, and then it dropped 4 feet of snow promptly in 3 days, and I was so ready to shovel out a baseball stadium. Let me tell you.
All right, thank you everybody so much. And I'll just remind, if we can, I do it too, and then I start talking and my mic is off, but just remember to, if you can, have your mic off so we can, as best as we can, have clarity for everyone who's speaking. All right, so next question, and Kathryn, I'll start again with you. How has your career differed or stayed the same from what you imagined it would be when you first started out?
Well, when I first started out, I was just excited to have an office and a real job. So I have to admit that. And you're going to start at a lower level. You're going to start so that you can just learn. It's great to have a mentor, is what I learned. There were a lot of very experienced scientists where I worked, and I took as many notes as possible. I attended as many meetings, even though they were optional. I attended everything I could. And then I felt like as I was doing those studies that I needed to further my education from the bachelor's degree to the master's degree. So I started taking classes part-time at Rutgers because they offered them. And that's a good tip for if you work at a university. Sometimes you get free tuition. It might kill you after a while, like it is now, but with me. But it really helped me to further my career because it became more in depth. I learned how to do actual studies, which I didn't know previously. And learning at the same time helped me to move up into the organization. So I started off as a study director, and then I went on to eventually the lead biology position. But that wasn't without learning and asking a million questions a day, which I still ask. So you keep learning every day. It never stops. So.
All right, go ahead, Paula.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things I learned very early on is your career is not a ladder, it's a jungle gym. And so you really have to be flexible. I totally relate to Kurt about just adapting and going with the flow and leaning into opportunity. I think that's something I'd always done, and I did very hard, very early in my career. So, I was in a big school system. I was working on in a floor with basically all these folks who had been there for 30 years working on procurement, folks who are running operations, legal team, and I really tried to get in front of everyone and just learn what they did. And through that, I actually stumbled upon the food service director. So Kurt talked a little bit about Aramark and working in food service. And the food service director was super non-traditional, and he used to run 4-star New York City restaurants. And I thought, this is what I want to do. How cool. I'd love to transform the food in the schools. And so I think just being open to opportunities led me to see connection that I didn't see from the onset. So when I was in school and I thought, I only want to do ed policy, that's it. I realized by making those connections, there's many different ways to take bites at the apple. And if you find something that you're passionate about and that you're excited about, then that's where the real opportunity lies, is to dig into that passion.
Man, both of them had really good examples and kind of stole a little bit of my thunder, but I will just add. So I, to be fully fully honest, by the time I finished my degree, I did not want to work in my field anymore. I was so tired of it. I was ready to do anything else. So I actually took a job with Airmark. I left. And I think that the important thing is, I saw myself working in food service and I loved it. And I really did like the job. But I created a lot of brave space for myself, and I made a lot of really daring decisions. I made a lot of strong decisions, and I kind of lived into those decisions that I made. And I totally agree with the jungle gym. I went left, I went right, I went backwards, I went upwards, I went sideways, I went diagonal. I've done a lot of that. And truth be told, based on all of the decisions I've made and the sort of information I've garnered, all the notes I've taken, I have 3 notebooks within like 2 feet of me. You're using all of the information you've ever gained in your entire life to make decisions for you today, and just making sure that you live into those. I found myself back in food science, and here I am as a regulatory scientist, even though, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I would have said that I wouldn't have done this coming out of college. Here I am.
Yeah, words of wisdom for our students here. There's not one way, is there? I think I'm going to jump to the next question here about an obstacle, a professional obstacle that you faced. It could be current or way in the past, and how you overcame it. Kathryn, go ahead. Kathryn, definitely unmute your.
Sorry about that. I've encountered many obstacles in different ways. My current obstacle right now is trying to finish school while they're transitioning to NC State University. So if you're in a university system, what you'll learn is that there's grants are very important, and also knowing about the current school status, such as overhead costs, are very important. And that's what ultimately led to the decision to move from Rutgers to NC State. So when I first started with IR4, I wasn't too familiar with grants and how important they were, and how they help drive USDA activities. But I quickly learned that, and found out that was an important component. And to learn how to write grants is very important if you want to get into research-based work. So the current thought now is, I think Kurt mentioned it a while ago, he didn't really want to go to Boston, but he threw himself into it, and that's the current decision now. And I encourage students to get out there and to be able to travel and to learn about new places and new things, so you're more comfortable with changes, because as I learned, they could just pop up anywhere at any time. So that's my advice.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to second that there are so many obstacles. Sometimes it's hard to think about what's the most compelling obstacle, but I think for me, I've always been a person who just wants to do so many different things. Like, I just never want to be stuck in one basket. I want to pursue new opportunities. I want to grow. I don't want to stay static. And so most of my career, I was always concerned about being pigeonholed. Like, we're starting in school nutrition. I was like, I don't want to be the school nutrition lady my whole career. And then, in every various role, I've thought to myself, I don't want to I want to learn something new. I want to grow. I want to move from local to regional work. I want to move from regional to national work. I want to move from national to international work. And so what I'd say about how I overcame that obstacle is just, do well in your job, lean into opportunities, lean into people, find mentors, and those opportunities will come. So you can be like me and be super impatient and think, I'm never going to get out of this. Or you can just say, hey, I'm going to do the best I can where I am now. And then my performance and the relationships I'm building will help me get to that next level. Because ultimately, even if you don't see the path, that path will come. So even right now, I'm working in a national organization, and we just had the lucky chance of tapping into some UN work. So again, I had no idea of, you know, how I might work internationally, but then that opportunity came. So that's probably the biggest piece.
You guys are good storytellers.
Yeah, as before, really great answers before. So I was sitting here kind of thinking, you know, how have I overcome obstacles? And sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just trip and fall flat on my face. And I think failure is a really important part of overcoming obstacles, and what you learn from the failure is super important, because it's only failure if you do it more than once. The first time is just a mistake. So, you know, with that in mind, it's like, don't be afraid to fail, you know, be afraid to, you know, always succeed the first time, because that's just weird. Right. You know, people that are always constantly doing the right thing probably have failed before. And the only reason they're doing the right thing now is because, you know, they learned from their mistakes. So I would say that, you know, don't be afraid to fail from your challenges, and the ones I've had in my career, definitely failed. But I also think that I wouldn't have failed if I would have kept my eyes and ears open to what people were actually saying, and the kind of, I don't know, I want to call it relationship currency, right? So if I'm, you know, talking to Paula and we're having a conversation about what we would like to accomplish, am I really hearing what Paula wants to accomplish? Am I really seeing what Paula wants to accomplish? Is Paula telling me in a way that I actually understand, or should I ask questions about what Paula wants to accomplish? Those sort of things, where, you know, obstacles can exist not only as tasks, but as people, or they can exist as timeframes. An obstacle isn't always just, I have to check this box on this page. So that's my two.
I mean, such like nuanced answers, and it's so good to hear. I like, it's making me feel better hearing you guys talk, right, in our day to day. I know my colleagues are probably thinking the same thing. I think just sticking along the same lines of failure, this question wasn't specifically posed to you guys ahead of time, so if you don't have one, it's okay. We do have a couple more minutes left, but we had asked you to kind of think about a mistake or failure you had faced and what you learned from it. I wonder, could you put yourself back in your shoes as a student? Kathryn, I know you're a student right now, but if you think back to your undergrad days even, can you think of a mistake or a failure you encountered then that our students might relate to now? Could be powerful to share that. And if not, that's okay. You could also, you know, share something that's more relevant to today.
And I don't really consider it as a mistake or a failure, but when I first went into Del Val, I just had, you know, a single thought that, you know, I would just do floral design, and that's what I wanted to do. And I kind of kept my mind shut to everything else. So I didn't really attend as many things as I should have done. You know, I should have been a part of more clubs, and I should have been out more. And, you know, the only thing I was focused on at the time was just, let's get through this. I want to get the best grades. I want to be perfect. And it's really hard and difficult and not fun to be perfect. And that's what I've learned out of all of this, is you could be perfect and everything can still fall apart. It doesn't matter. I mean, what matters more is to have, you know, a life where you can enjoy things and learn things at the same time. So I really think that was the mistake that I made, is I just had tunnel vision, and it's just, I just want to get this over with, check mark. I want it to be perfect. Okay, next to the next thing. And I kind of went on to do that after, you know, working too. I just wanted to be perfect at everything. But what matters is to learn, to enjoy yourself, and do that kind of stuff too. So that's what I learned so far.
Kathryn, I want to bottle up your answer and like play it on repeat for every single one of my classes. It was great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so funny when you say think back to undergrad. I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I do in undergrad? Like I can't even remember, and I'm not that old. So, one of the things I think that's hard as an undergrad is you have your own expectations and you're in this new environment and you're trying to figure everything else and out and you're managing other people's expectations. Like for me, it was my parents had this expectation that I was going to do international business, and like I signed up for a scholarship that somehow I got even though I knew nothing about business. And then I felt like, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this. And I think, through the process of taking different classes and meeting new people, and again, pursuing things that maybe you only have somewhat of an interest in, but then, those classes allow you to explore that interest. You feel like you have to at some point unshackle yourself from everybody's expectations and then just do what feels right for you. So, could I have had a more lucrative career if I would have had done international business? Oh, heck yeah. Versus nonprofits? Oh, yes. But would it have been as fulfilling as what I'm doing now? No, definitely not. So, I think that's undergrad is a good period from that. And I would also say, like, I don't think I found out what I was or what I even wanted to do until I was like mid-20s, either after graduate school or in graduate school. So it takes a long time.
Thank you. I know that there are students at Del Val who can resonate with that message of coming to school with an idea in mind and prior expectations from family and their community about what to do and the way to do it. So really, really great insight. And then Kurt, you'll be our last respondent.
Hey, you got it. I couldn't have ended up with two better panelists. So my answer is going to be kind of a fusion of the two. I think when I was an undergrad, the one thing that I really missed out on was kind of doing it at my own pace. So now I work for Campbell's, shout out real quick. There's a co-op program that they do offer to juniors and seniors. So you actually take either a fall or spring semester off, but you go and you get that work experience with the company. And then almost everybody who works at Campbell's right now is a co-op. So it's a really good funnel for if you like the job and you like the company and you've learned all of this good stuff. I mean, you're guaranteed a career afterwards. But then, I still don't know what I want to do. So I still am exploring thousands of different things. Like I'm getting my MBA currently, and I have a food science degree. So it's kind of like a strange blend. But sort of, I totally understand, I grew up in a rural community, so coming to college was kind of like, it was a big deal. And then there was a lot of expectation, a lot of direction. So I definitely say keep your options open. Don't be afraid to take school at your own pace. And then a professional advice is, I actually left a really high paying career because it was draining me physically. I wasn't resting. I wasn't listening to myself. I wasn't listening to my body and what I was capable of doing. And at the end of the day, that's probably the most important thing, because without your health, you're no good to anybody. Work, school, family, nothing. So I think that was probably one of the better decisions that I've made in my life.